Um, uh, we're okay. It says we're live, but I'm looking at the YouTube on my cell phone and I don't see anything. Yes, and I I hit go live on OBS and go live on YouTube, and I see a 30-second counter, and it says that I have an excellent connection. Oh, look, there it is. It just popped up on my phone. Oh, and they can hear me. Excellent. Hello out there, everyone. Sorry about the delay. I How about now? Can you guys hear me now? Okay. Yeah, now you guys can hear me probably. Turns out I turns out I muted myself, which is not conducive for you guys hearing me. But we've got it sorted. So, anyways, I was just saying thanks for you guys' patience. Obviously, we have some kinks to work out in a little bit of a transitional phase, but it's all for the better. So just some growing pains, but we're gonna get it all dialed in, and it's gonna be excellent. So. For those of you that haven't met or seen me before, I guess none of us have really met. But for those of you who haven't seen me before, I'm Joe Pareca, and I'm the president for 2021. And tonight we have a fantastic speaker, Mayor Jennifer Stark, and she's going to kind of give us an update on the city and how the city is dealing with the current pandemic situation, things like that. And so she's going to give us a presentation. As always, you guys kind of know how this works. As she's presenting, feel free to type into the chat. I have the chat up on my right monitor here. As it comes up, I'll be able to ask the questions to Mayor Stark, and we'll have a little bit of a dialogue. So, without any further ado, we are going to get started. Alrighty. Hi there,
Thank you.
Mayor.
Hi, Joe. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to do the present now.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go ahead and get right on into it.
Okay. My entire screen. All right. Chrome wants to share the content of your screen. Share.
Yep, and it should pop up here.
Hmm. Well,
So we had it too. We had it in the practice. I promise. I promise all the members out there. We had this in practice. We had it down. uh, um,
well,
when you go to
It's,
present now, it should say you can either do your entire screen or a
can
window or a tab.
you see it right now?
I cannot see anything right now. I don't see you sharing.
Hmm. If I go to me and I go to present now,
Yep, in the bottom right hand corner, and then you should have a couple options.
my entire screen. And
It
now,
might you might need to do uh, window or tab.
oh, okay, all right. I'm sorry, everybody.
Oh, we'll get it figured out.
Good times, good times.
Yeah, yeah.
Window. Okay,
Are you presenting through PowerPoint or a different program?
I'm presenting through, I believe it's a PowerPoint from that keynote speaker thing.
Oh, from Keynote. Okay, so it's Mac. Okay. Then you should when you hit present now, it should be either probably window or tab.
It's right here too. Let's see. I'm sorry, everybody. Should I just do it without the PowerPoint, or
Uh,
should I keep? What's the feeling that we have? Do
well,
you?
yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily need to have the PowerPoint if we can't get it going. Obviously, I'm sure you're well versed on the information in the PowerPoint. So or if you can,
Happy to do it without, and then figure out a way to share it with anybody who would like it
yeah,
afterwards.
yeah, we can definitely do that. And if you just want to pull up the PowerPoint so you can see it and not necessarily share it, then you can just kind of use that as your guide. And we'll just be happy to
Yeah.
have a little dialogue and a conversation, and we'll get some good information out of it regardless.
Okay, Active Claremont, thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here. Again, I apologize for the glitches that are happening. This format is new to me as well, but it really is my pleasure to be here. Um, my name is Jennifer. For those of you who don't know me, I was born and raised in Claremont. I also married somebody from who I met in high school, and we raised three children here who all went to the Claremont schools. I love Claremont with all my heart, and it is truly my such a privilege and an honor to serve on city council and to serve as mayor. I, I think that's. Let's just stick with that about me now. I'm happy to tell you anything more later if you
Sure.
So the topics that I prepared for the PowerPoint include a general city update, the
Excellent.
impact, the impacts of the pandemic, major projects, a 5 to 10 year outlook, again more specific realities around the pandemic, and then time for Q&A.
Excellent. That sounds
So
wonderful.
starting with the impacts of COVID, in March, as we all know, the stay at home orders were issued, and the city had to close the city buildings to the public
Hmm.
and moved all of our public meetings onto Zoom. The essential operations of the city continued. And some programs and services were affected. Special events were canceled, as we all know, or they were moved to virtual events. Public meetings moved to Zoom. Permits, plan check, and inspections all moved online. The staff started working either telecommuting or by having like A shift and B shift. So we reduced the amount of people who were in office space together at a time. Um, and our senior meal plan moved to a drive-through service. Um, I am really proud to say that our senior meal plan has gone on and adapted and provided meals for our seniors who rely on the lunch nutrition program throughout the entire closure. LA County public health issues the health orders governing business closures and restrictions. LA County health inspectors enforce the business restrictions. Our city does not have a health department to issue orders.
Hmm.
Health departments are $1 million departments, um, and our city is not does not have the size to be able to fund a, a health department. So we do rely on the county's guidelines.
And I think
To
that's an important thing to kind of point out because so many people, I think, just kind of have this thought that, oh well, it's the city's choice, and why won't the city listen to, its citizens, and cry out. And you have to constantly remind people that it's a little bit bigger than just the city of Claremont, or our little bubble. And there's people that are in much higher positions that might be a little bit more disconnected, or have their own thoughts about things, or have their own information. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because so many times I see and I hear, in community that, oh, the city this and the city that. And even myself, I have to remind them, well, we're not making the rules. We're just playing by them.
the Absolutely. And when we're in times of struggle, it's really natural to uh, it isn't always obvious why things work the way they work. And
Hmm.
LA County is really, really big. Um, and uh, and it is true that we have had to go by, like, the November closures for the restaurants. That was really shocking because at that point we did not have the numbers
Right.
that made that seem fair. However, it didn't take very long for us to get there.
Hmm.
And so at that time, I think it was more a problem of messaging and being able to thoroughly message to everybody that what the early closure was trying to avoid as much as possible was the spread.
Yeah.
And and the early closure, it wasn't able to really do that. We still Our numbers skyrocketed through the end of November and through December, and we're just starting to find our way back to where we're starting to go on an uptick. And I think the light is at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Um, I think that I think one thing that I really want to assert is that um, it is being frustrated and being angry is oftentimes a doorway into the conversation. So if that's where you're coming from, please feel free to reach out and express that. And oftentimes there is information available that maybe won't take care of the immediate feeling that you have at that time, but it might make sense when you chew on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, Um, the county is not trying to hurt businesses. The county is also that our economy is meaningful and important to everybody. The
Hmm.
county was the all of the protocols were intended to make it so that our hospitals had enough beds to deal with people who needed them. And
Hmm.
so we once again we are starting to see the end. We're, we're headed in the right track. Um, so to go back to the city and COVID, to assist businesses and residents, the city created some streamlined fee permitting for the outdoor dining operations, and this was in the summer. So we created some temporary uh, uh, CUPs, conditional use permits, to enable the outside dining. We were able to offer a business assistant grants, and we were able to offer rental assistant grants. In June, the city council approved a mask ordinance to create a citation process for violation of the county and health orders. And once again, I'd just like to sort of um, iterate that what the mask ordinance does is create an enforcement mechanism
Hmm.
for a protocol that was already in place from the county. Um, Rangers and officers educate and gain voluntary compliance to the mask ordinance. So anyone who's in a position of enforcing offers a mask, explains the situation, asks the person to put it on, and so it's very easy to avoid a
Hmm.
citation. This is
Yeah.
intended to educate and to get people on board in a very simple way. Um, but of course, enforcement is limited to to how many available enforcement officers that we have at any one given day.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, On on February 15th, the county announced that elementary schools may resume in person learning with protocols. Retail space is now open to 50%. Personal care is open indoors at 25%. So that's getting your hair cut and your nails done. Outdoor dining is open at 50% capacity. Outdoor fitness is open. Indoor worship is open at 25%, but the protocol involves a no singing
Hmm.
because of how easily it is to transmit through through the act of singing. Youth sports, um, training but no contact sports or games
Hmm.
are so training is allowed, and the parks are open for passive use and some sports use. Trails, tennis, and pickleball courts and playgrounds are all open for the public. um, so now moving on to our 2021 budget development. When COVID-19 pandemic began, staff were concerned about the potential impacts on our general fund revenues. And so we adopted the budget for 2021 and included assumptions for reduced revenues related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The decrease in budgeted revenues was 1.1 million, and that was
Wow.
included in our budget for 2021. um, it was very fortunate that the expenditures were reduced to achieve a balanced budget. However, um, it turned out that we overshot. So we wound up being in a better position than we thought, which
Oh,
is
well, that's a nice little happenstance.
yeah, absolutely. That's the benefit of overly conservative budgeting is
Yeah,
that you can have be pleasantly surprised, which is way better
yeah,
than being disappointed, particularly when it comes to finance.
yeah.
So there, some of the signs, the positive signs that the general fund revenues for 2021 were not were not as severely impacted as the adopted budget suggests.
That's excellent.
I know. Stronger sales tax figures and the receipt of the federal CARES Act funding have mitigated some of the losses of other revenues. The city will continue to monitor our revenues and assess the impacts of COVID-19 on the city's budget over the next several months. And we'll report back to city, and the finance department will report back to city council. The staff has begun the budget preparation for 2021 and 2022. Staff will present the projected revenues and expenditures to City Council in March at the council meetings. A public community workshop is going to be held on Zoom in May to review the proposed budget. And those are opportunities for the community to give input and to let the city know what is concerning them or what's really important to them.
And speaking of budgets, and I know we kind of touched on this with schools. We have our first question. One of the Alexandra in the audience asked, what are some ways that citizens can help Claremont Unified School District students and teachers, especially with funds, volunteering, or even maybe mental health? So is there anything that, in your position that you see? Obviously, the Claremont schools are a huge part of Claremont. It's a huge reason why people are here. It's a huge reason why people love Claremont. What that you've seen is something that, maybe an everyday citizen, quote unquote, can do to, maybe help our teachers, staff, faculty, students of our Claremont Unified Schools?
Alexander, that's a really good question. And I think that there's a number of avenues to help with the schools. One would be to reach out to CEF, Claremont Education Foundation, and see what kind of to see what avenues they have developed.
And
Another
they
way,
are doing their raffle right now. So if you do want to donate to CEF, which is a great foundation that I usually try to get a couple raffle tickets myself. This is not a plug for CEF. I don't I don't work for them. But they are doing their raffle. So if there is anybody out there that normally participates in that, you can go check out their Facebook page. And I know that there's some information regarding that. And I believe usually it's a Prius. This year I think it's like a Highlander or like an SUV. So it should be pretty
it's the
nice.
RAV4. It's a
RAV4,
RAV4,
there you go.
a complete wilderness pass to California parks.
Oh, that's
So
really cool. That's perfect for COVID.
raffle, and that is donated through Claremont Toyota, which is under new ownership. And really, a lot of our uh, tax revenue came from how successful this new Claremont Toyota has been. So they're we're really, when I buy my next car, I'm going to get it at Claremont Toyota.
Good, good. We need to support our people.
Yeah, so CEF would be a really good avenue. Plus, to just get in touch with the school district, or to go to a school board meeting and ask the school board what type of things the community can do to support our schools and to support our schools' strong opening.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that those would be a few really good avenues. Also, if you wanted to email me, I'd be happy to send your email along to the school board. Um, Sometimes that helps float things to the top.
Certainly having someone influential pass along the email could perhaps help.
I'd be very happy to help. And everyone, this is an all hands on deck time, and so any offer of pitching in is going to be greatly appreciated.
Wonderful. Perfect. That's exactly what we needed to know. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah. So moving on to our major projects. A few years ago, the Village South specific plan started to be developed. So that's to develop the land south of the village, south of the railroad tracks, on the east side uh, of Indian Hill, where the Vortox building is,
Oh yeah.
and where the old Hibbard car lot was, right? Just on the west side of where KGI is, Keck
Hmm.
Graduate Institute. So for the past 3 years, the city has been developing a community vision for mixed use, transit oriented, development of the village. The plan to do this work for the specific plan was funded by a Metro grant. The draft village specific plan was released for public review on November 16th. The EIR, Environmental Impact Review Study, was released in December for the 45-day public comment period. That draft VSSP, Village South Specific Plan, has gone to the Traffic and Transportation Commission and the Architectural Commission. It will go, it After that, it will go to the Planning Commission, and it will probably also go to a Community and Human Services Commission, because it has a lot of open space. But it's anticipated to come before council for final review in June of 2021. And so that is really exciting for this year. Essentially, what this plan will
Yeah.
do is concentrically expand our village, much like the village expansion did, um, gosh, 20 years ago, I guess. Um,
Yeah, it's already
this
been that long. It's hard to believe.
this is a really exciting plan. There's a lot of information on our website about this. And again, if you want more information, I'd be happy to connect you to it. Another big project that we have this year is our housing element update. The state of California requires cities to update this. It's good to think of it like an exercise, an assignment of the housing element. And the state mandates that every city does this every 8 years. That what the housing element is intended to do is create an assignment where cities have to identify potential sites for affordable housing. For the periods of 2021 through 2029, the city has been allocated a regional housing needs assessment, that's also known as the RENA number, for 1,707 total housing units.
Wow.
That breaks down to 554 that would go under the very low income category,
Hmm.
309 that would go under the low income category, 297 that would go in the moderate income category, and 547 at the above moderate income. So that totals 1,707 units. Now, this doesn't mean the city is going to this means a city has to do the exercise to be able to identify where these units could be built.
Hmm.
So it's helpful, I
Right.
think, to think of the housing element like a homework assignment. Um, the city has hired a consultant to draft the housing element. Two community meetings have already been held to gather community feedback. The Planning Commission and City Council will hold more public hearings. This plan must be submitted to the state by October of this year. This is a really interesting process, and it really helps open up the discussion around housing, and helps create a really realistic framework to have the conversation about housing. Uh, um, so, and also because it isn't a development that is pressing, it
Yeah.
does give a little bit of it creates a little bit of room. Sometimes developments that are actually happening have a lot of emotion attached to them,
Hmm.
but developments that are visionary, it does give us an opportunity to talk in a more cool-headed way about what we want to see in the future of our town.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I'm really excited about the housing element process. And again, there's a lot of information for the upcoming meetings. And if you would like more information, sign up for the city managers. Sign up for actually all the emails that come out of the city, and then you'll be up to speed on everything.
And speaking of the city manager email, that's a really, really good one. I get that one personally, just to stay kind of up to date in the community. And obviously, housing is a big part of my life. So it's
Yeah.
good to just kind of stay up to that. And actually, speaking of, while we're on the housing topic, we have another question from the chat. And I know that this, Jennifer, this is probably its own, it's just probably its own meeting and presentation in its own right. So, um,
Absolutely. But I'm happy to
So,
question.
so we're just going to touch on this really quick because I know we still have a lot to cover, but we have a question here. Has there been an increase in the number of unsheltered homeless people in Claremont since the pandemic started?
Um, you know, every year the city does a point in time count, but because of the pandemic, LA County didn't do it this year. So in terms of
Yeah.
real data, I don't have that actual data to share. However, I think that we can all witness that there
Hmm.
has been more transient people and unsheltered people in the village. I think
Hmm.
that is due to a few factors. One of them being that oftentimes the people who we see on the street are kind of the highest acuity of people who are suffering from being
Yeah.
unsheltered.
Yeah.
So oftentimes the people that we see are people who are suffering from mental illness and addiction. And because of another issue that's been um, a compounding issue of this is that because of the pandemic, um, the policy has been in all of California to do cite and release.
Hmm.
So a lot of times people who would be incarcerated for a time are not being incarcerated.
Hmm.
So smaller crimes, misdemeanors, drunk in public, an officer will come, take them in, but they're only getting a cite and release.
Sure. Sure.
So where it used to be that being drunk in public you'd spend the night at least,
Hmm.
and oftentimes that would serve uh, as an access point into other
Sure.
services.
Yeah, that makes a
That
lot of sense. Once they're there, then they're open to help, and you guys can.
sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes, but so that's not helping. That's not happening. One thing that is really philosophically and uh, it's a difficult thing to grapple with for all of us, but our liberty does not hinge upon it only hinges upon lawfulness.
Hmm.
And so if we've broadened the scope of what it is to be lawful, like we can't deem certain behaviors unlawful because we can't pack the prisons because of the pandemic, because we don't have the infrastructure to deal with too many sick people.
Hmm.
uh, it People being without shelter and being without a job and suffering from mental illness and addiction isn't a crime, and it doesn't take away their liberty. So
Absolutely.
it really is it is a just because this is a difficult situation, it doesn't mean that there's not workable tools, and the city is really trying to to use every tool that we have in
Yeah.
our toolbox. We're working regionally with Glendora, San Dimas, Laverne, and Claremont, sort of these like foothill, this group of foothill cities, to try to pool our resources to create a shelter. um, we're trying to build more, and we're trying to really create what's known as a by name list, so that we understand who is there and what they need and what kind of resources they're getting. So
Hmm.
I is to answer your question a little more quickly. I believe, yes, there has been an uptick. I believe that we're really lucky the gold line is going to come through, but I think that in a lot of ways that's going our it's going to exacerbate a lot of social problems,
Hmm.
like homelessness. I think that one thing that I would really like to see is for us to be able to do more power cleaning of the sidewalks, to be more supportive of businesses, because this does put a real toll on the business
Yeah.
owner
Yeah.
in town. So there are a lot of things that we can do. If you have any ideas, please reach out and let me know. Uh,
Excellent.
um, this is something that, again, there is no silver bullet. This is going
Yep.
to take a nuanced, multi-pronged approach. Every tool we have in our toolbox, we're going to have to use.
Yeah.
But any idea, bring it,
Yeah,
bring it.
and like you said, this isn't it's exacerbated by the pandemic, but this is not necessarily a new thing, and obviously, um, you know, if someone had an answer that was a cure all fix all, we would have done it a long time ago. So it is a huge issue, and kind of as a
You
springboard
know what?
off.
Yeah, we're humans, and and there's none of us who has lived a life that hasn't had suffering.
Yeah.
And I oftentimes when we see people on the street, we're seeing people in the depths of suffering. And compassion certainly isn't the only approach, but I think that I think it's oftentimes helpful for me to remember that this is a complicated human
Yeah.
situation
Certainly
that we're
so.
seeing.
We do have one more question regarding the housing element while we're kind of still on that. In terms of the low income housing, does that include single family homes or is it primarily apartments or townhomes or condos?
I think that I think that for the units uh, that will qualify as very low, those will not be single family homes, just because of the the operating environment
Sure.
of the cost of building.
Yep.
And since we don't have tools to subsidize that building, I think that these will probably be more likely to be in multifamily housing units. However, that doesn't mean that these, and oftentimes people think of multifamily housing units as crowded, but as we've seen, oftentimes single family housing developments can be very crowded.
Hmm.
Um, so e- there's a lot of potential and once again, this is all visionary.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. We should stress that this is all this is very
Housing,
conceptual.
yeah, the housing element is a visionary process to get cities to grapple with what kind of infrastructure do you need to be able to house
Yeah.
LA County. LA County has over a million, has over 11 million people that live in it. That is,
Yeah.
that, so there's 333, I think, million people in the United States. So that's one in every 30
Yeah.
Americans lives in LA County. There is a lot
Wow.
of us.
Yeah. Wow. And especially when you put it that way, it's really, I mean, it's,
There's a
I
lot of it. And that brings a lot of diversity. It brings, we have a booming, huge economy. There's a lot of potential here, but there's also, it comes with a lot of complications,
it sure
a
does.
lot of a lot of opportunities to face challenges, but a lot of brain power, right, to face
Yeah.
it together.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Where there's more people, we need more resources, but then we have more resources. So it's a
That's
beautiful
right.
thing. Thank you for touching on that.
Sure, sure. So did I answer the question?
Yes, you did wonderful. Thank you very much.
All right. So should I keep going, or
Yeah, yeah, keep going with what you have.
So the next thing that's like right there in the that's on deck is some more street improvements. I want to touch on the Foothill Boulevard improvement because there was a specific question that came through about that. So the Foothill Boulevard improvement project was completed last spring, and the landscape and maintenance. So someone asked a question about landscape and maintenance. Um, our contract with MCA is set to expire. So staff is sending out a request for bids for the landscape maintenance. The last year and the last year, the landscape contractor, sorry, has been MCA,
Hmm.
and paying for that has been a part of the initial contract bid. Um, just a note on why the plants look maybe a little wintered is because we are in winter, and are the most of the plants that are planted are native and plants that thrive in California. So our topography, like if you look at our foothills, tends to sort of brown over a little bit in the winter, and
Hmm.
then the spring is going to be really, really beautiful. And then these are plants that won't require lots of, that won't be super thirsty through the summer. So they'll look really great all the way until when it gets cold again, and then they'll sort of shut down because of the chill. Um, so so that's that. Moving on to another street project is Town Avenue. The city
Oh,
engineering
yes.
has been working with a consultant to design improvements for town from baseline to foothill. This project is intended to be a complete street project similar to foothill. The town avenue improvements include road resurfacing, bike lanes, medians, and landscaping,
Oh.
which also gives us opportunities for MS4 compliance, which is stormwater capture. The project is estimated at approximately $2.5 million, and it will be funded through state and federal gas tax refunds.
Oh, okay. And again,
Um,
you might have said it, but I might have not heard it. I know that's happening along town, and what are the borders, north and south again for that project?
uh, it will be north and south from baseline down to foothill.
Oh, okay.
and
Excellent.
and and it's going to be working kind of in in harmony with Pomona, who's
I was
also
just gonna say, yeah, because I live close to Town Avenue, and for the longest time driving uptown, which I'm sure our members in the audience can attest to, driving up and downtown in the Pomona section was like it was a bumpy ride to say the least, and I was so happy to see that they made the improvements. And not only did they just repave, but they redid all the center median. And I take town, like I'm sure most Claremonters, uh, I take town all the time, and it's really made a remarkable difference. So I'm happy to hear that it's kind of going to continue on into Claremont.
continue up, and so we're going to take the work and move it up north. And so the town will be to take town sort of regionally through our beautiful neighbor Pomona. Will It'll be a pleasure the whole way, which
Excellent.
is so. My next slide is dedicated to homeless services.
Oh,
Um,
we were a little early on that. It was just a little teaser, and now we're going to talk. We're going to go in depth. That's good.
a little bit more of the tools that we have. So the city has a partnership with Tri-City Mental Health, and Tri-City Mental Health is Claremont, Pomona, and Laverne. And Tri-City is a public agency that it has its own funding sources. So uh, there. So, anyways, we partner with Tri City and other agencies to provide our homeless response and services. The city adopted our homeless plan, establishing a process of response. The plan positioned the city to receive county funding. The funding for services that the city is trying to secure is from major H funds. The city and Tri City are introducing a PACT team to respond to the mental health calls with police. Uh, a presentation on this program is going to be given at the city council meeting on Tuesday. Uh,
Oh,
um, so the PACT team, PACT stands for, why can't I remember? I can't remember right now. Yeah, I'll think of it in a
I'm sure it'll
second.
come to you. Yeah, and then you just blurt it out, and we'll know.
All I can think, I keep thinking program, but I sure it's not a program. Anyways, um, But there will be a presentation given by the chief on the February 23rd meeting. Police, the city staff, and Tri-City, a Tri-City facilitator work together to respond to calls to offer to uh, services to access and treatment programs for people when they receive calls.
Hmm.
Under the law, police cannot arrest or require a person to move simply because they're unsheltered, and I kind
Hmm.
of touched on that
Yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and that's because they do have First Amendment rights.
Sure.
Uh, um, uh, so moving on, my next slide is about the police. Over the last year, police have seen a slight uptick in burglaries all over the region. Burglars will hit an area over a period of time. Many are preventable by locking your cars, making sure you leave nothing inside your car, and locking your home. The police department has social media accounts on Facebook and Instagram and provide frequent updates, and they send out alerts through text and phone. The police commission has created several ad hoc committees to review current police policies and services, including the review of the use of force policy. Um, we've revised our citizen complaint process, and we're looking at the school resource officer. Commissioners have been giving presentations throughout the community and to different community organizations. The police department created a transparency webpage to give information on current policies and practices, and there's also a new electronic commendation or complaint form added to the website. I would like to say that, like I mentioned earlier, anger and frustration is really motivating. But if you have something good to say, it's always nice to hear it. So there's also a place to be able to to have a love fest.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes, things are difficult, and like you said, the first reaction for so many people in so many scenarios, especially when the scenario is, scary or daunting or new or uncertain, which sounds a lot like the scenario we've all been living in for the past year or so. Um, that's kind of like a default feeling to go to, and it is important to realize that, hey man, if you've got something nice to say too, that can really be powerful, especially in times like now where there seems to be so much doubt and negativity surrounding so many things. It's nice. And speaking of that, uh, Brian Bowcock, he's in our chat right now, and he thinks you're doing a great job at your presentation, Jennifer. So you brought that up, and I was like, this is perfect time to just build a little confidence. I have a couple of questions that I want to work in really quick, just because we're getting a couple. So the questions might kind of flip flop around, but like I said, I know we have a lot to cover, so we'll just kind of answer them quickly and then continue on. I know that one thing with, and you might not know the answer to this. Regarding CUSD in the schools, obviously we got some very good news recently that where cases are down and we've met that criteria to uh, at least consider opening grade up to
Open,
grade six.
yeah, open primary.
And what do you think in terms of when the schools will actually be reopened? I know this is like $100 million question right now, but what do you think, Mayor?
I um I think that this is a pretty tricky dance with making sure that that staff and teachers feel comfortable and have been immunized. Uh, Um, and so I think that that is going to be a real deciding factor.
Yeah.
Um, there is supposed to be a like super distribution of vaccine. And we're already starting to see more access points to be able to get the vaccine. But I really, um, I hesitate to kind of prognosticate
Sure.
really news ahead of time. I feel fairly confident that we will be definitely on a hybrid model by next year.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that kids will be back on campus by then, and but and also because I don't want to speak out of turn and jump out of my lane. I'm not a part of those.
Sure.
the leadership of the school district.
And I
So
know that the school board is working with the county, who's working with the state, who's working with the teachers unions, who's working, it's there's a lot of moving parts that go into it, and certainly if it was a simple question and it had simple answer, we would all be aware of it. But I mean, I guess the good news to take away is we're on the right track.
absolutely. And what I do know for sure is that everybody wants to get kids back in the classroom.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely too. And speaking of kids back in the classroom, another question we have, and I guess it all, also kind of ties into the economy and local businesses, especially those in the village. The colleges. Do we
Mhm.
have any idea when those might resume classes on campus so that we can get some more people
I
to our local
also,
businesses?
I also, I am not. I really don't know. I know Pomona is really being aggressive, trying to get students back, and I think CMC is also. Um, they they are really trying to get this done. But I don't want to speak
Sure.
for the the presidents of the five C's.
Yeah.
They are also not all on the exact same page. So I think
Right.
they're trying to work out internally if they are going to wait for each other or all open together. But as you all, I think, know, the each one of the colleges has their own administration, has their own board of trustees, and has distinct missions from each other. But
Hmm.
they also in collaboration and in a consortium together. So that fabulous tight knit relationship. Also, I feel like this is a good time to sort of say that. What is it? You, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
That's
It
excellent.
just
Yeah.
it takes a while to work out the kinks when you're working with so many people.
Yeah.
But I really do believe that 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 effort of working together and building a really good
Yeah.
bridge to get there is going to wind up benefiting us all more when we get there. And
Yeah.
boy, are has it have we ever like known how symbiotic our relationship is with
It's
those
true. Well, and that's
practices.
and that's what happens, when whenever there's a test, of a group of people, and even broader than just a group. I mean, this is tested. I mean, some could say it's tested the world as a community, and so it's interesting, and it's a great thing that you bring that up, because it is important to remember that we all might have our own thoughts and opinions, and we might have our own take on the situation, whether it's schools opening or businesses opening or indoor or outdoor dining or what have you. It's important to realize that we're all in this together, we're all learning together, and if we all cooperate together, surely we'll have a much better time at getting to our ultimate goal, which is obviously living normal life again. So we do have one person. Uh,
Thriving.
Yes, thriving. Exactly, exactly. I want to do a special shout out to Patrick Smith. He did both you and I a favor, Mayor. He found out what PACT stood for via the Courier. It's
Yes,
Psychiatric Assessment Care Team.
thank you.
So thank you,
That's what I was
Patrick.
thinking. I was
We
like, hey,
appreciate you.
thank you, Patrick. Psychiatric access or ass
Assessment care
assessment.
Assessment Care Team. So
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you very much, Patrick, for bringing that up.
And tune in on Tuesday night to get a presentation about that. That is this is a real tribute to our force who is willing and wanting to adapt. Um, and while growing pains are really difficult, this is having homelessness outreach not always land on police is really gonna help a lot.
Yeah.
So so this is exciting. So I don't have too much more, but I do have a 5 to 10 year outlook to talk about.
Let's hear
Uh,
it.
so the next major items and issues for the next 5 to 10 years are, of course, the biggest one, which is our bounce back from the pandemic, and our complete recovery and thriving in the years after these economic impacts. We're going to need to stabilize the budget. we're going to work on economic development, business revitalization, sorry, and to increase our sales tax growth, because that is our major source of revenue for the city. Development, we'll see the Village South area develop, so we're also going to be broadening our tax base. We're going to be working on affordable housing so that we can uh, so that we have more places for our own children to be able to buy when they grow up.
Yeah.
So that we can have young families moving in and filling our wonderful schools. We're going to really work on our homeless services and providing mental health support and creating a, even though it's nuanced and complicated, it doesn't have to be unknowable, and it doesn't have to be, we should all be able to articulate what we're doing to address
Yep.
these problems. So
Yeah.
so there's that. We're going to be working on our infrastructure, both maintenance and improvements, and of course, sustainability. Uh, and that's my last slide. Active
Wonderful.
Claremont question.
Yeah, so well, obviously that was a fantastic presentation. What we'll do is we'll kind of hang out for a second. If anybody has any kind of last minute questions for the mayor, you know what? I have a couple here that I skipped over because we were in such a groove. I didn't want to slow you down. So I'm going to go back to a couple. Brian has another question for you. His question is what is your role with Six Basins Water Master? Now, I don't know what that means, but I'm confident that he knows what it means, and I'm confident that you know what it means. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked you because he's a smart guy. So, what is your role with Six Basins Watermaster?
Well, I think technically I'm the secretary of the board for
Oh,
Grayson's Watermaster, but I've only been the secretary since we've been on Zoom. And so I've done an electronic signature that then goes on to our meeting notes. But Six Basins ensures that our future has an adequate supply of water for our needs and the needs of the Six Basins constituency. And I should be able to name them all, but it's Brian, can you do it? It's
I'm sure Brian will chime in if he's still in the chat. I'm sure he will.
so that's uh our water company.
Hmm.
Um what's it called? Everyone's always mad at them.
Oh, Golden State.
I
Yeah,
think
it's funny how as soon as you said everybody's mad at them, I somehow came up with the answer. As a Claremont resident homeowner, I'm very familiar with Golden State.
the reason why people are mad is because we do have retail water, and so retail water is more expensive. They have shareholders,
Hmm.
so people have the water thing fresh in their mind. Um, but anyhow, so Golden State's a stakeholder in Six Basins, and Salco. The what else, Brian? Is he putting it in the chat?
No, he hasn't put
What,
it. He hasn't put it in the chat.
we're tasked to do is make sure that that we have an adequate supply of the water both in the ground, and that we're making sure that water doesn't rise up so it's on the ground. Uh, um, and that's what Six Basins does. It's
Excellent.
very technical. It's very technical. I've learned a lot. I'm still, after 2 years on that board, I'm still like, it's
Well,
lots of charts.
well,
It's
that's
very technical.
that is the journey of life in whatever you do. It's a
Yeah,
constant learning process. No matter what you're doing or how long you've been doing it for, there's always a ton to learn. And so obviously as you participate more, you'll
and that's really the among the chief privileges of serving on city council is that it is every day an opportunity to learn more and grow more. It's certainly an opportunity to bring my best self to any situation. So
yeah.
it is uh, it's personally very impactful.
And
Um,
we appreciate what you guys do. Sometimes it can be a thankless endeavor, and it's sometimes people kind of tend to remember only the sour and not the sweet. And it's difficult. It's very difficult. I've talked to Jed in depth a couple different times. Obviously, we've spoken before, and I attend city council meetings here and there, so I kind of see what's going on. And you guys have a difficult job. It's hard, and you can't please everyone. And it's difficult, and you just have to try to make the right choices and the right decisions for the community.
Here's the deal. I think that anger, once again, is really motivating,
Yeah, yeah,
and
we talked about that.
people come to a situation from all kinds of different perspectives. And what city council does, particularly in the public meetings, what public boards do, is the formality of the public board. It really does provide a space to have it not be emotional.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's deliberative,
Yep.
um, and we are tasked to think about angles from more than the initial emotional response. And 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 I think that what we should be tasked with too is hearing when people come at us hot. What I always try to hear is that somebody really cares.
Hmm.
They're expressing their care in different ways, and a community member isn't tasked with the same role that I am.
Hmm.
I, it's my job to stay calm and to remember that my emotions inform my thoughts, and
Yes.
to be thoughtful, not
Yeah.
emotional.
Yeah.
But a citizen isn't sitting in that spot. So a citizen is well within their rights to express their feelings. Um, One thing I always like to remember is that we are not thinking beings who feel. We are feeling beings who think. And
Absolutely.
it is, our feelings are really important. They tell us what we believe.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so that is it. There is a little bit of mental gymnastics. And so
Sure.
I think about it a lot. Well, when people are mean to me, it hurts my feelings. But I'm a big girl, and you get over it.
Yeah.
You just,
No, that's a great outlook to have. I mean, you can't satisfy everyone, and no matter what you do, there's
you know,
probably going to be someone out there that nitpicks. So.
I have 3 children, and they hurt your feelings a lot too.
Well, I have, before we go, I have one last very simple question from Alexandra. It's simple, but it's really important, Jennifer. So put your thinking cap on for this one. Is the dog park open? We need to know.
I believe the dog park is open. I haven't been there.
Would it be community services that would know?
Patrick, can you look that up for me?
Patrick, she's putting you to work. Paging Patrick to find that out.
I believe that the unless it has been every so often in the spring, it gets closed to reseed the grass,
Uh-huh.
and so unless it's been closed to reseed the grass, it should be open. What they did do was turn off the water and take away the bags because they wanted to limit the amount
Oh,
of shit
contact.
that would be
Yeah.
touched.
Yeah.
Uh, um, and I know that that's a real bummer, and
And
I've heard about a lot of poop being left.
well, maybe you won't need to reseed the grass this spring then. Maybe it'll just be, organic. Um,
Well,
so
I'm happy to be back, and I'm sorry I don't.
would community services would they be the department to contact if our members wanted to find out
If
information
you
about the
wanted,
parks?
if you wanted to look it up, I think if you just Googled Claremont Dog Park, I bet something would
Okay.
come up.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Well, wow.
You
This
know,
is
I forgot to share when I did
what?
my introduction is the regional boards that I sit on. So I didn't mention Six Basins or that I observed the Three Valleys water. Essentially, I'm kind of the one who uh, I'm on for the COG, which is the the San Gabriel Valley uh, congressional the God, organization of governments. And we work regionally together. I sit on the Environment, Energy, Natural Resources Committee. I'm the vice chair of that, and I also sit on the Water Policy Board for that. And I'm also the delegate for the San Gabriel Mountains Community Collaborative. So I attend I'm the alternate for the Clean Power Alliance. So
Wow.
my role in council has sort of turned into like utilities, I think, and
I was
development. And I know that sounds kind of not flashy. However, it is a real essential piece
yes. Yeah.
why we work together and live together, because we need utilities. We
Yeah.
need we need to be able to rely on electricity. We need to have a grid that is getting increasingly cleaner. We
Well,
need to
yeah, and look at
we need to take care of our environment, and we need to preserve our open space. The way that we get our energy really, really matters, and it's at the heart of equity. Clean water, clean, safe drinking water is important. Stormwater capture is important.
yep.
These very important, maybe technical, maybe a little not quite as flashy as some other things, but this is I'm very proud to represent our city as we working
Yeah.
on
Wow,
these.
when do you have time to like sleep or eat? You you do so many things. I'm sure it's well balanced. But
Well,
you know, it
it really is. It's a pleasure, and you know what? I'm really, really lucky that I don't. I at this point in my life, I am not the breadwinner for my family. So this is really what I'm doing.
well that's
Um,
wonderful. And
and
again,
I'm really lucky that I don't. I am not needing to provide for my family. My children are grown, and my husband's still working for another 15 years.
good. Well, that allows you to keep Claremont, and you know, it's like I said, it sometimes you know, being in the eye of the public can be difficult. Sometimes, oftentimes, a thankless job. But just know that we appreciate you, and we appreciate what you do, and we appreciate not only what you do, but what your colleagues do as well, all across the city council and our various commissions and committees. Obviously, Claremont's known as the city of committees, and we've got committees for every little thing, which is great, and we appreciate all of those people, and it's a huge help. Your presentation, Jennifer, has been fantastic. We have answered all of the questions so far that I have. It's really been you've really provided a lot of knowledge. We Active Claremont really thanks you for joining with us for our membership meeting. We worked through our technical difficulties and nobody even noticed really. So go us. That's phenomenal. We have a kind of an
As soon as I took down my notes, the PowerPoint was right there.
I had a feeling it would be like that. I had a feeling that it may be like that. But either way, this worked out really great. This was a wonderful dialogue. I know that our members got a lot out of it. I'm looking at the chat, and we're getting some rave reviews, which is always wonderful. I do want to give kind of just a teaser for next week for everybody that's out there in chat. Alexander's so nice to shoot me a little message here. And next month, we're going to have Sergeant Robert Ewing of Claremont PD, and he's going to speak about some scams and some frauds that are going around. Obviously, we're getting close to tax time, a lot of IRS stuff, a lot of income tax, a lot of, and even some COVID scams. Running around. So, all the membership out there, that will be on the docket for next month. It's going to be a really informative meeting, and that'll be really useful. The scammers are out in full force, and they are very clever. They're very, very clever. So we're going to have a lot of good information. Anyways, that's going to about do it for this meeting. Again, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for answering all of our questions, and thank you for just doing what you do every day, day in and day out. We really appreciate it. And members of Active Claremont, we will see you next time. We'll see you next month for our monthly meeting, and we'll be joined by Sergeant Robert Ewing, and we'll learn some good stuff about that. So until next time, everyone, have a good month, and we'll see you again real soon.
Thank you so much, Active Claremont. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys. Bye bye.
Well, night. Bye.